everybody? Bandit and Chad here for a little bit of a Q&A session. So over the years we've gotten several questions, and more recently when we did put up a recent video, we asked you for some of the questions that y'all have been having, and we figured we'd sit down here and answer them. As this is graduation week, we are getting pretty close to moving out of Blacksburg. It's kind of a bittersweet moment, but we do have both pretty exciting plans as we move forward. So you want to get started here with some questions?
Yeah, so kind of touching on that, one of our first questions that we got from one of our subscribers named Greg, he had asked, what are your plans for living location and working after graduation? So I'll go ahead and start. But I will be moving to Raleigh, North Carolina, and more specifically, I'm going to be living in the Cary area of North Carolina, which is just outside of Raleigh, North Carolina, and pursuing a career in my degree, which is property management, and I'm going to be working as a manager in development for the company that I had interned for in DC this past summer. So a little bit of a different speed going down there to North Carolina versus DC. It's going to be a lot more my pace, and hopefully I will be enjoying it down there. I'm really excited for it, but I'll be starting that exactly a month from graduation.
Right, and I'll be moving back home. I'm going to be working for a construction company. I've worked actually for the same company for the past 2 summers. Some of my family members work there. It's very familiar to me. I'm looking forward to being back home for sure. But that kind of wraps up that portion, but that kind of leads us into the next portion, which is what's going to be going on with our trucks. So you want to start with that?
Sure. So with our trucks in particular, for the short term and possibly long term, we are definitely going to be keeping the trucks around for a little bit. And there are definitely things that we want to do with our trucks going down the line, but we're not exactly sure what they're going to be. There's always something out there for our Tacomas, so that is kind of a good position to be in, that there is a good aftermarket following, as we've talked about before. But we are going to be keeping them around. They are definitely, for me, my daily driver. It's the only vehicle that I have, and I mean, for right now, it's yours as well.
Right.
You do have other vehicles, and we both enjoy driving different vehicles, whether it's our parents or your grandfather's truck that you have, or any other little projects that do come along. But to answer the question, we are keeping the trucks around for at least a little bit longer, and we're going to be adding things onto them as they go. And if you guys have suggestions, obviously let us know, and we'll look into the possibility of that.
Right, and that's kind of the exciting thing about having a new vehicle. With a lot of older vehicles, what they're going to be provided with the aftermarket is kind of already out there. With these new trucks, they are new. There's more companies getting involved with the aftermarket support all the time, and it's kind of exciting. We open up Instagram, YouTube, Facebook all the time, and there's always new products out there, and we're looking to try those out. Actually, right now, as we're filming this video, there's a couple things that we need to do right after this before we leave town to further update the trucks. But also with updates in terms of the channel, obviously I do have the Dodge Dakota now. We do have some plans with that. I've also been considering a couple other project vehicles. Nothing has been ironed out yet, but if you do have anything that you would like to see, definitely leave that in the comments. We're always interested in project vehicles, and that's honestly one of my favorite things that I've been able to do throughout the channel. We get asked that all the time as well. What's our favorite part about YouTube? Obviously interacting with all of y'all, it is really exciting for us, but also all of the opportunities that I never thought I would have that's become a reality because of the channel. Working with different companies, working on different vehicles that I never even really considered until we were just on Craigslist or Facebook one day, and just happened to pop up. And because of the channel, it has really enabled us to take on some of these projects, and because of that, we are very grateful for you all.
Right, and that is one of the things, kind of touch on what you said, with not knowing that this would be a reality. Like, when I had come to college and had met him, we had no idea where this was going to go. I just was interested in it because I was researching Tacomas, and I knew that I was going to be purchasing one, and he had gotten his before mine. So his channel is one that I came across just at the time, was maybe 200 or 300 subscribers. Maybe.
Yeah, it was very small.
It was very small, and he didn't know if it was going to turn into anything, and I didn't know that I was going to become a part of it. And here we are, and 7,500 some subscribers later, and here we are. And it's been really, really cool to see all of this come to be, because we grow up seeing these other channels saying oh, we have this video that's sponsored by, or we're working with whoever. It's like, well, that's pretty cool. and here we are.
Yeah, it is really cool. And again, that is all because of you all. And we do really appreciate your support. But it's not all about trucks. We do have a couple of other things that we are getting into, some other power sports, actually. More of those videos will come. So definitely stay tuned. Definitely spread the word. Obviously, we do really appreciate your support. But now, as a result of working with some of those companies, as Chad was just mentioning, we're actually giving away an Orange Virus tune for the truck. The OV tune has quickly become one of the most popular modifications for these Tacomas. And all you have to do is subscribe. As soon as we reach 10,000 subscribers, we will be giving that away. Check out the video. We'll definitely link that in the description to figure out how to get all signed up. But definitely spread the word. We are really, really excited about giving that away. Again, definitely check that video out if you haven't seen it already. We're giving away a laptop and the tune. And we really feel like, as a thank you to you all, that is one of the most appropriate things we can do and as a huge token of our gratitude.
So one of our next questions is, if you had to buy another truck that's not a Tacoma, what would it be? You go ahead and start with this.
Okay, so we have a pretty strong reason to believe that the next generation of Tacoma is going to be a turbo, likely a 4-cylinder turbo. We covered this in previous videos, but we're kind of polarized on that topic. From what I've been reading, I haven't driven the new Ford Ranger yet, but I've heard that they drive really, really great in stock form. I think that's really the thing to stress. In my personal opinion, I think one of the greatest things about Tacomas is all the aftermarket support. Running bigger tires, being able to do lift kits and everything like that is great, but when vehicles leave the factory, a lot of times they are optimized. Anytime you change any of that kind of stuff, the vehicle handles differently, it gets different fuel economy, it has different power, everything else. Now, luckily with our tunes, we've been able to capitalize on maybe the truck wasn't optimized when it left the factory, and now we're making a little bit better version of the truck.
Right.
But these 4-cylinder turbos are stressed in general. Making 300 horsepower out of roughly a 2-liter motor that's turboed, there's not a whole lot of room for error there. And as a result of that, it seems to me like adding strain by lifting the truck or with bigger tires or anything like that, I think you're going to see your fuel economy just nosedive after that. So I'm not super excited about a 4-cylinder turbo because I personally don't know if I can leave a vehicle stock that long. So I think that's kind of where it leaves us. In terms of other trucks that I'm interested in, obviously the Tundra is currently a little bit long in the tooth, being this generation came out in 2007. I still really like this generation. Likely I would get something smaller though. I'm very, very interested in the Suzuki Jimny, what we knew as a Suzuki Samurai. The rest of the world got an updated version of that. I would absolutely sell my truck tomorrow if they said they were bringing that here. I would absolutely love a small 4-wheel drive vehicle. Something Bronco 2 size I think would be really cool. Again, Ford says they're bringing back the Bronco and a baby Bronco. Curious to see how all of that works out. But overall, I don't see myself going to a bigger truck. It seems like a lot of people, especially kind of our age, go with the Tacoma because that's what they can afford at the time, and then that leads them into a bigger truck later on. I definitely don't see a need for that for me personally. The size of our truck, or my truck and your truck as well, it's kind of perfect for what I need. I will likely be getting a work truck that is a bigger vehicle, so I think on my weekends and when I'm not on the job, I think I'm going to want something a little bit smaller. Definitely 4-wheel drive though. I've had a few cars and kind of sportier vehicles in the past. That's not really me. I think definitely the 4-wheel drive vehicle thing is definitely for me. But I also had a Jeep in the past, and I realized that's not for me either. So I want something smaller, basically RAV4 size, but actually off-road. The RAV4 Adventure and the RAV4 TRD off-road don't really do it for me.
No, those are just little special packages. Right. But as far as what I would go with, we fall into a very similar category that we do enjoy our trucks. We've always had something, for the most part, that was 4-wheel drive, truck-based. And that's all I've had. A Tacoma is what I started with, a 2006 Tacoma pre-runner TRD Sport. So it was 2-wheel drive. It was great. I loved the truck, but now I have one that's 4-wheel drive and it's newer, much nicer. Obviously, that is one that I will be keeping for the foreseeable future, but if I had to pick something different, we were just having this conversation just last night over dinner, and something that's not quite a truck, but something that's smaller in size. does not have a truck bed but is still capable and you can do a decent amount is a Subaru Crosstrek. As silly as that may sound, it is actually a super capable vehicle, pretty safe. I mean, it's a reliable thing as well, and they do offer a 6-speed manual transmission, which makes it a little bit more fun, I would say. But if I had to go with something still like a truck, at this point in time, I do not need anything bigger. I don't need a half ton. I don't need a 3/4 ton, 1 ton. Not at all. There's no need for it. But in the future, I could see myself possibly having a half ton, depending on what a future family comes to be, if I do have any needs for towing or whatever. But a Toyota Tundra, I'm not brand loyal, but Toyota is something that I know it's all I've ever had, and obviously this channel is centered around Toyota Tacomas. So that would be something that I could see myself with in the future. A Chevy Silverado is also something that we have talked about being, if there was one half-ton truck out there to pick at this point in time, it might be a Chevy Silverado.
Right, and obviously we're not knocking Ford at all. Obviously Ford sells an excellent truck. They're still the highest volume selling truck that there probably ever will be.
Right, and have for several decades now.
Right. They're just way out front in terms of sales, and I think they make a really great truck. I'm not sure that I would necessarily want one, but again, I don't really want any half-ton truck, so I guess I'm a little bit biased in that way. But it's definitely an interesting time, at least to be a vehicle enthusiast. There are all sorts of things coming out here in the very, very near future, and it seems like the off-road market is one of the more prevalent ones going on right now. So we should have all sorts of new choices here coming very soon.
So one of the next questions that we have is, what inspired you to start the channel? Once you graduate and have a bit more time, do you plan to make any changes to it? So obviously I did not start the channel, so another question to you.
Okay, well, I would say I got my truck in late March of 2016. I started the channel basically when I was waiting for my truck. And what I wanted to do is basically just cover my experience. I'm a huge fan of what was Subaru WRX fan, now Matt Moran Motoring, and I really enjoyed how he went through kind of his daily life in his vehicle. You know, the service intervals, any issues that would come up, and just basically share his love for his vehicles. And I'm kind of the same way. I'm very, very passionate about my vehicles. I feel like my Tacoma is a pretty good expression of me for those of you all who actually do know me on a more personal note. You know, it's not overly flashy, but I really enjoy it. And I think I just basically wanted to share that enthusiasm and love for the vehicles. It really did help me that I was one of the earlier adopters of the 3rd gen Tacomas. I think that definitely increased our audience size. But basically, you know, I didn't do this to get in the limelight. I didn't do this to make all kinds of money, obviously. You know, obviously the revenue that we do make from YouTube really does help support the channel. We do really appreciate your all's views. But I think that really needs to be kind of your driving force. I've had several of y'all ask me what I would recommend to you all if you are starting a channel. And basically, you know, be passionate about the subject. I think that really rings true with us.
It does.
And it's way more interesting to watch channels when the people do really care about what they're talking about. And I hope that's portrayed to you all. But in terms of us graduating and moving forward, obviously Chad and I are moving to 2 completely different places, not too far away.
No.
But I think what this will allow for, school really does take up a lot of our time throughout the week and on the weekend. I think when we start kind of a 9-to-5 job, more or less, I think we're going to have a lot more time on the weekends and, you know, once we clock out for the day. And that's going to, and also we're going to be working with a lot bigger budget, which is really important. But
that'll change stuff.
Yeah.
More than likely.
Yeah, for sure. But more or less, it's going to open a lot of doors for us. I'm not going to guarantee that every single video we put out is going to be regarding the Tacoma, but it's definitely going to be more off-road focused. I think I'll have a lot more time to take more trips, and being back home, I have a lot more access to land. So you know,
this is a good point.
Yeah, doing off-road videos is going to be huge.
Right.
But also, Chad's going to be in North Carolina, closer to Uwharrie, closer to Uwharrie.
I will be much closer to the Uwharrie National Forest, and I'm not saying I'd ever take my Tacoma on the beach because that's not really a lot of fun. You're driving on sand, and I mean, it's for some people. But anyways, the beach is about 2 hours to the east of me. I've got the mountains and hiking in Uwharrie about an hour and a half to 2 hours to the west of me. So there's a lot to be explored in North Carolina that I'm definitely going to be doing and documenting for you all. But largely, I don't believe the channel is going to take any large step in any other direction.
Right, I
It's
agree.
still going to go behind the principles of we are passionate about what we do, and we're going to be sharing those experiences with you all. Sure, we may not be together nearly as much as we are now, which we are a little disappointed about, but it is life. That is part of it. But we are still excited about the direction that things are going in, because largely this is something that we really enjoy doing, and we know that our lives will be changing pretty quickly. I mean, we're starting our first real full-time job, whether it's been something that we've already done over the summer or something that we interned with at some point. This is still going to be a focus of ours. This channel is not going to just kind of dissipate. We're going to let it be as it is for years to come, and then in 20 years we're going to say, hey, I did a video once, and there it is.
Exactly.
So like, we're still going to continue this.
Right, and another kind of exciting part, Blacksburg is still going to be more or less the center between where Chad is going to be living and where I'm going to be living. So I think we'll definitely be in this area a good bit still. We have a lot of friends here. There's all sorts of off-road trails here. And I think this place is kind of special to both of us. So I think we'll definitely be back here a fair amount as well. So another question we get all the time is, when will we be coming out west? We have several viewers in Colorado, in the California area. It seems like Tacoma culture is huge out west.
It is.
And basically the question is, when will we be coming out there? So
Right. So we definitely will have more of an opportunity to make trips outside of Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina, where we've been spending most of our time taking trips here during college. But now that we are probably going to be having a decent amount more time and can take some vacation time at some point, we will be making our way out west at some point. Whether that be driving or flying or whatever it may be, we will definitely be making our way out there, because there's so much to explore. Like you had kind of alluded to, there is a big Tacoma following in Colorado and California, especially because, I mean, the Baja California area is pretty big with Tacoma culture, and as well as just out west and kind of south are really big areas for people that just have Tacomas and love Tacomas. So we will definitely be making our way out there. There's a lot to be explored that I know that you've already actually been and had explored. You had flown out to visit Briggs over the summer.
Right, yeah. For those of y'all who didn't see that video, be sure to check that out. Basically, there's two videos of when I was out in Boulder last summer. We went four-wheeling with my roommate Briggs and his 4Runner. We had an awesome time out there, met with a couple of you all, and really, I mean, it's a whole different world out there, and I can only assume that California is the same way.
Yeah, I mean, when I had traveled to California for various vacations, it is very different. It's not, you can't really compare it too much to the East Coast or even Colorado. They're all very different regions and plateaus.
Right.
So,
but basically, you know, it is roughly 3,000 miles separating us from California. It is going to be a little bit of a hike. We don't know of any specific plans right now, but I would say realistically we will be heading out there at some point. So definitely stay tuned for all that. So another question that seems to come up here a lot is, why do we think that for the third gen Tacomas, why do we think that the 3.5 liter V6 is out? Obviously, before this vehicle came out, the corporate V6 at that point was the 4 liter, right?
4 liter. Yep, the 4 liter 1GR FE is the corporate Toyota motor that made its way into the 4Runner, the Tundra, the Tacoma, and a lot of other overseas models, mainly their SUV and truck-based models.
Right.
It was a very good V6. We both had second-gen Tacomas, and I didn't have any complaints about the engine. He had a 6-speed manual.
Right.
I had 5-speed automatic in my truck, and we both had pretty good experiences.
Right, and one thing I would like to point out with that is it's not only a very reliable motor, it made decent power, was a little bit thirsty at times, but that was probably one of my favorite vehicles to service that I've ever serviced. You know, the oil filter's in a really good spot. Yeah, it just, all in all, it was very thought out. I'm not saying these aren't thought out. I think this is a very impressive motor. And obviously this is the newer version of Toyota's corporate V6. I think the addition of direct injection alongside port injection, I think that's a really good idea. And I'm glad they kept both. We're seeing a lot of companies that are dropping the port injection. Then you get dirtier valves. Basically the engine just can't clean itself quite as well. So keeping both around is really important to me, and something I would definitely look forward if we were to move into different vehicles moving forward. But I think really it's fuel economy standards, and we didn't really change the power output. You know, we gained a little bit of horsepower, lost 1 foot-pound of torque, I believe.
Yep, it went from 266 to 265.
Right, which obviously with the tune we got all that back, but
Right.
I think it was just time. I think we're kind of seeing the same issue right now with the 5.7 that's in the Tundra and the Sequoia. It's time. They're starting to get thirsty. They're starting to get long in the tooth. Not to say those engines can't get updated, but it's just a whole different kind of idea that Toyota's reaching for. And also, another important thing, Chad was talking about that the 4-liter is in several vehicles. The 3.5-liter is in a lot of vehicles.
It's in even more vehicles.
Right. It's in Lexus products. It's in the Sienna. It's in the Camry. It's in
the Tacoma, Highlander, Camry. Like it's
right.
in a lot of Lexus models, even more Toyota models here, and even some overseas. I mean, this engine is not just here for the U.S.
Right.
And I mean, it's in Canada, obviously, because they get a lot of similar models that we do.
Right.
But yeah, it was just time to head in a more advanced direction, and there's also a lot of push from the EPA as
Right.
well. Like
Yeah,
that is something that has a huge influence on what ends up in a lot of vehicles nowadays.
Right. And not to say that if they kept the old 4-liter, they couldn't pair that with a higher gear count transmission and still achieve decent fuel economy numbers. But I think overall, I'm actually really happy with this motor.
I am too. It's not a bad motor, and there are a lot of people that say like, "Oh, this is a dog of a motor." Well,
Right.
we don't think that you've driven enough older vehicles to
Yeah.
really compare it to that. Because
anyone that's driven a Land Cruiser with a 3FE, that early FJ80 that we had, that thing was slow.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking slow.
Yeah.
This thing still will get up and go. It may not have all the low-end torque.
Right.
You may not have to ring it out a little bit, but at least when you ring it out, there is something up top as well.
There is, yeah. That's
so
pretty happy.
that is one positive thing. And I've actually done a lot of hauling with mine. We'll get into that here in another video here in the future. But hauling and towing, these engines actually do reasonably well.
They do very well.
I'm pretty impressed with it. You got to remember, this is a mid-sized truck. If you plan on towing or hauling all the time, I think the average person can probably figure out that you might want a half ton or something bigger.
Yeah.
But for an overall vehicle, a daily driver, they can also do some work. I think a mid-size is the way to go personally.
I agree.
And I'm very happy with the Tacoma in that respect. So over the last several years, I've racked up just over 40,000 miles on my truck. And another question we get all the time is, what's our least favorite and what's our absolute favorite mod that we've done to the truck? That's a tough one. It really is.
That is a tough one.
I would say least favorite.
It is tough.
I don't know.
We like a lot of the things that we've added to our truck. I mean, usually what we do add is pretty well thought out. Whether it's something that somebody reached out to us and told us about, or it was something that we were saying, yeah, we absolutely need to have this, such as the bed mat. I would say we both really enjoy
The
that.
bed mat is absolute key.
It's a must-have. I did not have one in my second-gen Tacoma, and I can't tell you how many times I put stuff back there and it slid around, and I had to be very careful about every turn that I took because I was worried about spilling or knocking something over, and it probably did happen at some point.
Right.
But with the bed mat, it prevents a lot of that, and I know a lot of you have told us that you love adding the bed mat to
Right.
your truck. It just changes the whole experience when you do put stuff back there, whether it's gas containers or something that can really slide around on that composite bed, because it is a really slick surface,
Right.
especially when it's wet. And
Yeah.
sometimes you might even be the one that slips.
Yeah, I've been there as well.
Yeah.
The bed mat might be a little bit of a boring answer,
It is.
but that's definitely one of the better ones that you can do. I would say my least favorite, and this might actually be a surprise to a lot of y'all, I really like my WeatherTech mats, but I would say that's my least favorite.
Yeah.
Because they are the hardest things to clean. I mean, obviously being off-road, out hunting and fishing and everything else, I track in a lot of mud into my truck. The floor mats, the WeatherTech ones, keep my truck clean overall, but they are the biggest pain in the butt to get clean again.
They are.
I mean, I take mine out and pressure wash them and everything else, but they still stay almost this brownish, kind of gross color all the time.
Right.
And mine are very, very hard to keep clean.
Mine too. Yeah, we both have the same WeatherTech mats, and I mean, the one thing not to do is clean it up and put like the back to black stuff on it, or like tire
Yeah,
shine. Don't do
don't
that
do
because
that.
they'll be slick. They'll be very slippery. I did not do it, but I have read online that people had bad experiences, and they'd put their feet inside and it would just slip constantly. So don't do that.
Right.
But yeah, I enjoy mine as well, but it's not a super exciting mod. I know I enjoy all of my RCI parts that I've added. They've been usable. They look good and functional for the most part. The bed rack, I'd say, is the least functional because I've gotten a lot of use out of my lower control arm skids. And the first modification I actually did to my truck was adding that aluminum skid plate, which has taken quite a few hits, but has kept everything important really protected. Those are the few favorite ones that I do have for sure.
Right. And that aluminum skid plate that's on your truck, I think, has held up really pretty well for all the things we've thrown at it.
Right.
It also looks really good.
Yeah, it looks really good with the truck. I mean, I never thought that I was going to be going for like a silver theme with parts that I added, but the bed rack, the lift kit, oh, that's one I forgot to add. I really enjoyed the Old Man Emu lift kit that comes with the Bilstein 5100s. That was a really good choice. I'm really happy with that. It's made the truck a lot more capable off-road with it being the double cab long bed, but the shocks, they're silver, and then the skid plate is silver as well. But they are all, I mean, they serve a purpose. And the aluminum skid plate, while it is inherently not as strong as a steel skid plate, it's lighter and it looks good. But yeah, it's held up pretty well.
And it's definitely better than what you had stock.
Exactly. The stock TRD Sport, you only get the front section of the skid plate that covers your engine oil filter. With the TRD Off-Road and the TRD Pro, I mean, the TRD Pro gets a different skid plate, but TRD Off-Road gets one that goes back another foot and a half, 2 feet further, that protects even more.
Right. I would say maybe my favorite one might be my ditch lights. The Cali Race pods that you might be able to see behind us, they're really, really nice. And I can say, living in the western part of Virginia and driving on back roads the majority of the time like I do, those things have saved me from hitting so many deer.
Yeah.
I can't even begin to describe that to you. But for a modification that is relatively cheap compared to a lot of things that we've done with the trucks, I would say that is certainly one of my favorites in terms of keeping the truck safe. You don't really think about ditch lights, especially the side projector ones, as being a safety modification. But again, they're not street legal. I did not tell you to run them on the roads, but I can tell you they have kept me from hitting several deer. I would say one thing that has really changed the overall driving experience of my truck is the tune, obviously.
Absolutely. That was probably if it's not a physical thing, that is probably the most favorite. And it's, like you said, changed everything.
Right. I absolutely love that. And also being able to tailor it, if we're going off-road, you might want to think about the gear lock tune. If you're just driving on the highway, I seem to run the 93 just bass tune pretty much everywhere.
Right, that's what we've both been running, and it's been pretty nice because you do get the added benefit of premium fuel. It's tuned for that, and you get a decent amount of power and torque out of it, and it's noticeable.
Oh yeah, and it also seems to run a good bit smoother. It seems to take out a lot of the knocks. I'm very, very happy with that tune. I guess if you want a real spirited run, you can try Performance, but I don't really drive in that a whole lot.
Which we tried. I did that for the video and maybe like a week after, and it's not good for all the in-town driving that I do because I live so much closer to campus than you do. So it was the way it tunes the torque converter. It gets kind of jumpy and
it's touchy for sure.
It's touchy. It's very sensitive. The tip end is, anyways. But there's one thing that I was thinking about as far as our least favorite modification, and you might agree with it as well. I'm not sure, but the TRD air filter. It's not a bad thing to add, but it was a real hassle cleaning it. We both just recently went through cleaning it. We knew that was a thing going into it. It's not something that surprised us, but there really isn't any noticeable positives to it.
No, I would say maybe a slight benefit in fuel economy. Definitely none in power.
Right.
The only benefit that I see is you're not sending as many old air filters into the landfill. I think that really is probably the only positive thing that comes out of it that is measurable. But the way you have to clean it with the degreaser and then re-oil it and everything else, it's a several hour process. And with the paper one, you just pop it in, pop it out, you're done.
That's
you move
a
on.
really convenient way to go about that.
So not saying I am going to take this out of the truck. I think it's still fine. But it is definitely more of a hassle than I was expecting, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So our last question here will kind of reveal a little bit of our personalities. But it's what music, if you were to stop us at any random time, what music would we be listening to? So go ahead.
Well, for me, I like a wide range of music. I can do anything from pop to country. I try to avoid rap. That doesn't really do a whole lot for me, honestly. But it's mainly between pop and country. I sometimes do connect my phone and listen to Spotify or whatever. I did recently subscribe to that, and it's been pretty nice to go through there and listen to whatever I want. But there are times where it'll just be nice to put on the radio because that's all I've known for my whole life. You know, every vehicle that I had up until the Tacoma, I could only listen to the radio. There was no USB plug-in or aux cable put in for your phone. It was the radio or bust. So
Right.
that was me.
I'm on Spotify all the time. I would say I kind of keep up with more of the music trends, I would say,
Yeah.
which is kind of surprising. The kind of surprising part is I only listen to kind of more traditional country stuff and southern rock. That's kind of what I like. I don't like pop. I don't like rap. That's just not my thing.
Yeah.
And actually, what also might surprise you all is if you were to stop us on the street, I would say you're definitely the chattier one than I am.
Oh, to have a conversation.
Oh, yeah.
I think so. It's kind of interesting because when I first started like doing this with you, like I was totally like it was foreign
Right.
to me. I hadn't really been in front of a camera, and it's very easy to tell. It's funny to look back 2-3 years. Whenever I first had started doing this with you, you could tell that like the camera was a little bit of a foreign thing to me. And over time, like I've warmed up to it. And there are even times where we just have off days, and I can't tell you how many times we've had to stop the camera because we're like, nope, that doesn't sound right. And sometimes we do include a little bit of a blooper or something
Right.
for you all. But we've definitely gotten a little bit more used to it. And I mean, I know I'm kind of going on a tangent, which is kind of playing into what you just said. I do tend to be the one who will have a bit more of a social interaction. Not to say you're an introvert at all,
Right.
but you know, if you were to stop both of us on the street and say, "Hey, I recognize you guys," chances are I will be the one that gets in more words. Not because I overtake it, but just because I am a bit more chatty.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I mean, Chad said I'm not an introvert. I'm definitely more introverted, I would say.
By comparison.
Yeah, by comparison.
By comparison, but not like a hermit. You're definitely not a hermit.
Well, there you go. Well, in that, I'm not a hermit, and we will wrap up this video. But thank you all very much for watching. If you did stick around for this long, we do really, truly appreciate the support. And if you could share the channel in any way that you could, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Tacoma World or Tacoma 3G. We actually just made an account with Tacoma 3G to help spread the word about this giveaway. But that really is the biggest thing going on right now. We are super, super excited to be working with Matt from Orange Virus Tuning. It's an awesome opportunity for us, and what we think is an awesome opportunity for you all. And we hope that whoever wins this giveaway is a deserving winner and truly appreciative. But again, we are giving that away as soon as we hit 10,000 subscribers, so make it happen. If you do have any further questions or comments or life stories, leave those in the comments below. Thank you all very much for watching. Have a fantastic week, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
See you guys.